those are probably the only two things that I do that I would, that I question myself about doing, I guess.
And what did you notice what when you just watched the urge?
I've done. I noticed. I think that the urge was probably less powerful. Like I've done that before with food, with particularly with snacks at night, because I know it's like the worst, thing for my weight. But I typically just give in. This time, I felt like I did feel a little more in control and like I could decide. So yeah, there's something about like paying attention, and I don't know, there's something that seemed different about it this time.
Hmm. Yeah. How about other folks? Anyone else? Dawn, it sounds like you tried doing that. See why you do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I know exactly why I do it. But what I noticed is if I was aware enough in the moment, I saw it and I went, okay, let's leave it for a moment and see what happens. And as soon as I left it, I actually got done something I was intending to get done. Right. Like and I stayed on track,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And did you notice what did you notice in terms of the urge?
Well, it's funny because I noticed how false the urge is. That it was more me trying to comfort myself and escape than just, not just do things that I was intending to do, but just to be okay with not, pleasuring myself somehow or distracting myself somehow, kind of thing.
Mm.
That didn't sound right. I should have rephrased that. Anyway. Oh my goodness. I think you guys.
Okay. Why don't we meditate? So can everyone hear me okay, by the way? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to mute everyone. Great, so finding a comfortable position, one where you can be relaxed and also alert. Not leaning forward or back. And stretching up, pressing the sitting bones into your cushion or chair. Allowing everything to hang, to soften. Perhaps with the shoulder blades resting on the back body. Elbows by the side. We'll start with one sound of the bell. And letting the attention sink deeply into the body, noticing sensation in the body. Throughout the body, all the way from your toes to the top of your head. Just that general sense of the body. There may be areas that have more sensation or less, that have pleasant or unpleasant. Just opening to whatever's there, not trying to change anything. Just noticing the dance of sensation in the body. And becoming aware of that sense of being the one who notices, that sense of being the witness of the sensations in the body. And whatever else is going on in your experience, there may be things going on in the background. You may get pulled away from the body into other sensations. Just doing your best to stay with the body sensations and that sense of knowing. And with each out breath, allowing the body to relax to whatever extent it wants to relax. Noticing any bracing or resistance in your experience, any wishing that things were different, and dropping that resistance, doing your best to drop it, to relax, to say yes to whatever is going on. And if you're finding that difficult, that's no problem. It's just what's going on. You don't need to change anything. Just keep relaxing, doing your best to let the energy move freely, the energy of the emotion, of the sensations. Dropping all effort, except for just a little bit of effort to maintain that awareness, to maintain that intention, to focus on the body breathing and that sense of knowing. And if the attention has been drawn into thoughts, or if you're noticing the pull of the thoughts, that's no problem. Just release the pull of the thoughts when you notice it. So the thoughts may be telling you have to figure something out, maybe asking questions, but you don't need to give any weight to those thoughts. It's perfectly fine to not know. They may be asking, what should I do about this? Don't know. What's going to happen? Don't know. How do I practice with this? Don't know. Well, the mind wants to know because it's uncomfortable when it doesn't know. It wants to control. We're just getting comfortable with that feeling of not knowing, allowing ourselves to experience whatever discomfort there is in not knowing. And that helps us to release the pull of thoughts, to keep our attention on our body breathing and on the awareness. So you may notice that there's some perceived problem that your mind wants to think about, to figure out, to turn over and over. Call it the problem of the day, the problem of the moment. Whatever that problem is, just rest in not knowing what's going to happen and not knowing what to do and not having figured it out. Just rest in the not knowing, tending to the body breathing, allowing whatever emotions are there to just do their thing, dropping resistance, watching from the seat of awareness. There may be maybe there's an issue at work or in a relationship, or thinking about COVID or some health issue, maybe a money issue. Whatever there is, just letting yourself rest in the not knowing. Relaxing, letting go of the pull of the thoughts. Watching it all from the seat of awareness, the seat of self. Tending to the body breathing. knowing that whatever happens, you'll be okay. You can handle it. You have all the conditions you need to be happy. Whatever problem is presenting itself is not as important as your inner state. It's not as important as your practice. Not as important as your inner world. If your inner world is beautiful, then life is beautiful. So just relax. Know that you're alive. Enjoy the sensations of being alive. You don't have to know anything. Just rest in that place of not knowing, of just being. And with the sound of the bell, we'll bring this meditation to an end. So feel free to stretch whatever needs stretching, massage whatever needs massaging, move whatever needs moving. So, what'd you notice there in that meditation?
I remembered at the beginning of it what the, the thing was from the book that I liked, which was the part about making your mental model. That was the
Right,
part that I thought was interesting.
right.
Beyond that, what did I notice? Yeah, I don't know. I was pretty peaceful. And I was noticing, yeah, I guess maybe I run like this. I run late in the day, so and then I was noticing that, like the feeling of having done that, having run, which is good, but I might not otherwise if I hadn't stopped. You know, I wouldn't have noticed it. So I noticed, yeah, I guess it's energy
In the body.
in the body. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So like there's, yeah, I noticed that there's like a difference in my body from having run, which may be obvious, but it's not something like I notice very often, like that I notice differences in my body during the day. Like I feel like I just don't notice it much most of the time. So yeah, so that was interesting.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Anyone notice the mind wanting to know? No? I had an experience last night or yesterday evening where I found out yesterday that my roof deck, which is my basically only outdoor space, and favorite outdoor space, which I had removed last fall to redo the roof, and they were supposed to start it around now, and now I found out that they don't know when they're going to be able to start it because they have a labor shortage. And so I was, the mind was really active, like, oh, I gotta get other quotes, I gotta get this done, I can't wait. And the mind was just wanted to know. And so I was practicing relax, release, lean back, but it was very strong, and the mind was just really strong. And I wound up reading the book, The Untethered Soul, which really actually helped to turn around my thinking. Because even though I was like opening to the emotion and the sensation, the mind was it just kept coming and coming and coming. It would, it might release for a few moments, but then it would come back and come back. So, and then I listened to one of Mickey's talks, and at that point, I could go to sleep. But it was quite, it was interesting because I was thinking to myself, wow, like this is like the week of not knowing, of practicing not knowing, and my mind just wants to know. It wants to figure this out. It is not accepting the possibility that I might not have my deck until God knows when. And when I was thinking, I'm giving away my happiness, and how important is this deck really? I mean, can I really not be happy unless I have this deck? And yet the mind was just rah, going. Part of the problem was that I found out yesterday. Part of the problem was that I sat outside yesterday. I just took this chair and stuck it on the roof and sat there for about 15-20 minutes. And it was so nice. It was so nice. It just really watered the seeds of desire of wanting to be able to sit outside on my deck. So, yeah, anybody have any experience of like this wanting to know, this real wanting to know, wanting to figure things out? Jeff, yeah, you're muted.
Yeah, yesterday I went for my COVID test, and I had a specific time down at Convention Center. And when I got there, there was a long lineup, and it was a bit early. So I kind of got annoyed and a little bit angry. I thought, why do they do this? They give you a time, and then it's going to take a long time. And then I thought, no, let's take it easy here, Jeff. Just look at the situation. And I found out that it might take an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I thought, okay, that sounds all right. And I wanted to experience it. So I stayed. And in fact, the person behind me said, oh, you go have a coffee or something, and we'll keep your place in line. And I thought, no, I just want to be here and take it all in, see what happens. So I felt good about that in a way, to do that, even though I got cold after a while. then I found out after the reason that there was such a long lineup. They had 50 stations for nurses to give the needle, but only 20 were being used. There were only 20 nurses there. So even though I didn't know that answer until I got to the end, you know, I let it be, whatever. So that's yeah, that's sort of what happened there.
Yeah. Great. And when you were like, were you practicing like, you know, dropping your, like relaxing and dropping the resistance and opening to it? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
That is so valuable. And the other place is in the we were talking about eating earlier. And I had, you know, I mentioned this long time ago to you that I couldn't stop having sugar because I was aware that it was causing anxieties with me and so on. And so I've been able to do that. And in stopping and relaxing and just, you know, what we're talking about and take a breath. And then I realized, no, I don't need to go and grab that sweet, whatever it is, chocolate. I haven't for about the first 3 weeks, I didn't have chocolate at all for 3 weeks. And yet that was my one vice I didn't think I could ever leave. But anyway, it's amazing how that actually works. I find just to tune in to what it, you know, what's driving me, and to relax and realize that I don't have to give in to that temptation or that desire.
Yeah.
So it's I find it amazing, really wonderful. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great, Jeff. Thanks. So why don't we go over the home practice, or if anybody has any questions, please bring them up or anything you want to share. So as usual, I was working with the small stuff. We did the meditation on open awareness. There was noticing when your model of reality is challenged, which, I mean, could be any disturbance. And then see why you do it, which we talked a little bit about at the beginning, which is just not doing something that you want to do, and then just see what happens, see why you have that urge. So how did this go? Anybody have any just any questions or any obstacles, any successes, anything of interest that you'd like to share would be great.
I had my discussion with Laurie yesterday for my meeting, and I was talking to him about my practicing work emails when they come in, you know, like what steps I go through. But I was on my way to a Zoom meeting after the meeting with Laurie, and in talking to him, I realized that my annoyance with those clients was rooted in that my model of myself was being threatened by what they asked me to do. And so before I met with him, I sat quietly for 10 minutes and kind of let go of my model in that situation. And I had a much bigger sense of humor when I met with him. And it was amazing the difference it made. Like, they actually, there were certain things they wouldn't do according to the zoning code. And in the meeting, in the beginning of the meeting, with humor, I had let go of my point of view. And I thought, okay, we'll play it out. We'll just hand it in the way they want it to be handed in. But in the meeting, they actually decided to do it according to the zoning. So, and I think they could feel in me that I had let go of my model. For me, I was just having a nice time in this meeting. I wasn't fighting for a point of view, right?
Mhm.
So I found the difference. And when I came out of the meeting, I was way more relaxed than I would be normally after like a long Zoom meeting, you know. So really that I didn't clue in on that model thing. Usually I would try and let go. I didn't realize until Laurie and I spoke, like the role that model you have of yourself and your place in the world is playing, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks, Maria. And um, that, and this model, and just for other people's benefits, I mean, Marina's talking about her, her views on the way that clients should conduct themselves, and on the things that were, acceptable to put into the application. Marina's a designer, um, of, I guess, of how, well, houses and other structures, I guess. I'm not sure. Um, but and it, this, that you were less stressed after the meeting, and Marina, I think Marina froze actually.
Sorry, I had frozen here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was just about to say, like, the in chapter 16 this week, he talks about resistance, and how, resistance is very effortful, right? And so
Yeah.
when we're, if your model is getting hit, if you're resisting whatever's going on, you do tend to get stressed and tend to get tired, because it's a lot of effort to resist experience, right? But if you can just drop the resistance, then or even better, not have resistance. And I mean, not that you can control that, but anyway, then yeah, it's you have much more energy when you don't resist so much.
Sorry.
Yeah. Does that sound?
My internet is not good tonight, so I'm like freezing in and out. But anyway.
Yeah. So Marina, if your internet's not great, you can always turn your video off to preserve bandwidth for your audio. No. Marina, if you want, you can turn your video off.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
When you turn your video off, then you have more bandwidth for your
Yes.
audio.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, great. How about other folks? I'd especially love to hear about whatever, working with the small stuff, working with just disturbances that came up.
I've been just kind of thinking about that idea of resistance and trying to see where it is, because it's not always obvious to me, and I feel like I'm not always sure what the definition of it is. And then, like, a day or two ago, I know I realized, like, that the experience of not liking something in itself was resistance. I can't remember now what the thing was, so I don't have the example at hand. But yeah, and then I guess yeah. So that kind of clarified things a little for me. I'm still, yeah, I find, and maybe it's, I don't know if it, like, I'm finding like I'm able to be less reactive, maybe, and I'm not sure if if that's connected or not. But like, well, I guess it like, it's like the thing that have, like, I'll get text messages from my wife that I'll feel annoyed by, and typically will respond to them, and respond to them quickly. But I know that, like, if it's better not to, probably, and to hold off and to see whether I really need to respond at all.
Yeah. Well, resistance, it's an internal thing that you feel, right? Or that you notice. You can notice, and it tends to be, as he says in chapter 16, it tends to be, there's an effort, there's a stress, there's a sense of two forces, fighting each other, right? One being the force of the reaction usually, right? And the other being the defending against the reaction. So resistance isn't exactly, it isn't the reaction, it's the defense against the reaction, the
Right.
not wanting to experience the reaction. So it could be like mental not
Right.
wanting to experience it, or wanting it to go away, or could be the physical sense of bracing against it. But it's and noticing resistance in your experience is definitely an art.
Yeah.
It's something that you practice, and you just, it's really hard to give you a precise
Mm.
definition of,
I
but
think maybe, yeah, I need to take notes when I notice it, because otherwise I'm going to forget otherwise. And I'm still like, then I know there's like this time that happened. I thought, oh yeah, this is an example of it, but I've lost that now. So, and
yeah.
now,
And you can even just, when you notice that there's a reaction, or when when you notice that there's discomfort, you can just ask yourself, where's the resistance?
right.
And just,
Yeah. Well, I
and
could,
not answer it intellectually, right? But just sort of observe your experience. Where's the resistance?
yeah. Okay. So I could see that like yesterday when I was meditating, and then my wife came downstairs to do some laundry and like left the laundry, the door open. There was a lot of noise. So I was really aware of that, and of that as a potential disturbance, and then trying to, hold that disturbance off. So that's the pattern, right? It's like both the thing going on and my thinking, okay, I'm meditating, I have to stay calm.
Yeah. Well, the thing going on, it's not the thing going on.
It's not
No, because the thing
right,
going on is outside. Resistance
but
is
it's the
inside.
disturbance to the thing going on. Like I could have, I could
No.
hear noise while I'm meditating, and
Yeah.
just
I
that would
know.
be fine. This noise wasn't fine. I mean, and indeed, like that's what I was aware of. Like I'm aware of the fact that like I distinguish noises. Like a noise that comes from her is going to be more annoying to me.
Well, yeah, but the point is that that's all going on internally, right?
Right.
What's going on externally, like others would not be bothered by it, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So
So
that
so the resistance is my response to the, like, it's like, I don't want to hear that noise now. Like I
that's
want
resistance.
that noise out of my life.
Yeah, wanting things.
That's
Yeah, so you're
the
wanting things to be
resistance.
different. You're wanting things to be different. You're wanting there to be no noise. You're wanting her to close the door. You're wanting, whatever you're saying the way things are now is not how they should
Right.
be. They should be a different way. I want them to be a different way. That's resistance,
Okay. Yeah.
right? Anytime you want things to be different than they are, that's resistance. So,
Right. And
and
then
you can
you've got
also,
the,
Hmm?
well, and then there's the double thing where then you tell yourself you shouldn't feel that way. So then that's
That's
another
another layer
resistance
of
on top
resistance.
of, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The whole not wanting to, it's it tends to come down to the emotion and the felt sense in the body, and that there's some discomfort there that you don't want to feel because it's uncomfortable, right? And so that attempt to not feel it, whether it's in the mind or in the body, that attempt to not feel it, that's the resistance.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'll say just one more thing that was the positive, like from the meditation this week, and that I'm finding useful, and maybe even in that situation, is the saying yes to it rather than saying no to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I found that really noticed the difference in the meditation between saying no to whatever discomforts or whatever there is, and yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, and when you open yourself to it, when you drop the resistance, then you don't store it or you release it, right? So it's and that's even the more important thing as opposed to what actually happened, like how pleasant it is right now, because and just remembering like that there is transformation, there's purification going on. So even though there's some discomfort, there's also this knowing that this is helpful for your state of being, your consciousness, if you will, your blockages. Yeah. I just want to check in. Kathy, are you okay? I know, Kathy, I don't mean to get you out of bed. I just want to make sure you're okay. If you want to lie down, that's fine. Just yeah. You're muted.
I'll try to concentrate. Sorry.
Okay. Well, you do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. I just want to check in with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else want to? Yeah. Dawn? Yeah.
I just want to say, in regards to what Mark was talking about in yourself about the saying yes to the feeling or the emotion, I noticed that each time I repeated the yes or the, just welcome it in. Actually, first I'll say, when you were saying, no, I don't want you to be there, blah, blah, blah. And I could feel just the tension, just feeling it all in my jaw. And then when I wasn't overthinking it, and you're the meditation that you did, you started to say, okay, welcome it in. Yes, come on in. I instantly felt the release. And I honestly didn't think it would happen so easily and so quickly, but the proof was in the feeling, and it was really, really neat to observe that. So yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Actually, I will say something else, if that's
Oh,
okay.
okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. I just thought of something else with the model. I noticed, so obviously when there's two parents, they have different parenting strategies, and I noticed that if I want something a certain way and I try to kind of, control that, this week I've been trying to practice with, okay, I start to say something and then I wait and then I realize, oh, wait a minute, this person is capable, this person has their own way, just let it go. And when I found myself doing that, I noticed that, everything I'd built up inside of me that I thought I had to have control over the situation, it actually wasn't really all that necessary. And so, so that's what I discovered as well about the model. So letting go of control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Should we go on to the chapters? Yeah, okay. Anyone have any, did anyone want to share? No? Okay. Okay. So chapter 14, letting go of false solidity. So this is a pretty deep chapter. It continues from the two previous chapters, the one about the, building the house in the middle of the field, and, how the walls of the house are thoughts and beliefs and views and all that, our whole psyche that that we think is keeping us safe, but it's preventing us from the sunlight that's everywhere. And then the next chapter talked about in a little more detail about how we make this model of reality. And every time, again, which is our psyche, all of our beliefs and preferences and thoughts and patterns, and how this model is constantly, it's a simplification of reality. It's how we think the world works or should work, and who we are, our place in the world and all this sort of stuff, and how it's constantly bumping up against reality, which is of course not, because our model doesn't match reality. And every once in a while, actually quite often, there's an inconsistency there that we have to deal with that causes a reaction, and then we try and defend our model. So this chapter talks more about like how the model is built from a really sort of basic place, which is this idea that if we have no model, if we have no sense of, views and preferences and sense of ourself, it feels very unsafe. Basically, it's this, you don't have, it's kind of like you're falling or something, that there's just all these things happening in your experience and there's no sense of control, and that's very disturbing to us. And so in order to, and then, in this experience, this like, maybe this is our experience when we're born or something, but I mean, that we, there's things that stand out in our experience, and so our consciousness focuses on those things. They stand out generally because they're either pleasant or unpleasant. Our consciousness focuses on them, and that kind of holds them steady, right? And there's that sense of steadiness, and we like that sense of steadiness, and so we hold on to that. And then there's something else, and then we figure out how these things fit together, and that's how we create our model. And it all comes from this need for this sense of control or of safety, stability, perceived need, I should say. But so he talks about this tendency to cling being primal, being very, very strong, right? So what happens is we build this model, like it's the mind that builds the model, and then we identify with the model, right? The model says, this is who I am, this is my name, I'm in a relationship with this person, I do this work, I have this belief, people should do this, people shouldn't do that, and this is good and this is bad, and I like this and I don't like that, and so we create this model, and we think of this model as solid. It gives us a sense of comfort, of control, of stability. But he says this is a false solidity, because it's all just based on all these impressions we have that we formed from the past, from from resisting life, right? Anything we didn't like, that then formed a samskara. It formed a dislike, or a belief that things should not be like this, or that we can't handle this, that we don't want to, we avoid this, or else things that we held on to because we liked them. And so that, Mark, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of this, have a question. But so some of those, like a big part of models would be things that are external to us, like religions, right? Like, so I identify as Jewish or Christian or Hindu. That's a big part of people's models. But in Mickey's worldview, are those equally ephemeral to, like, are those just other preferences, or because I don't know. And then like there is a sort of solidity to those, like historically, and I mean there's stories of course, but they're different kinds of stories because of their historical continuity.
Well, I mean, that historical continuity just makes us cling even more because we think it's really solid, right?
Right.
And there's lots of stuff that may be relatively solid and relatively permanent, but at some point everything gives way. I mean, even if it's not till death, but you may strongly identify as Jewish, and then someday that gets challenged, right? There's some, I know, for me, like I'm Jewish or identify as Jewish, was raised Jewish. And I remember Passover a couple of years ago reading at the back of the Haggadah, the book you read on Passover, and it made this comment about like God likes us best and the infidels should all be killed. And I was like, what? What? Does no one else here, like, does that not bother anybody else here? And and they were like, it's just, it's from long ago. Nobody pays attention. It doesn't really mean anything. And I'm like, but my model was challenged, right? Even though I don't even strongly identify with being, like, I'm not religious, but I'm not as far as Judaism goes. But and any of these things, you can identify as being a man. Well, probably that's not going to change, or a woman. But it's still something that you identify with. That is that might be challenged because one day, I mean, because of that, somebody may one day say, oh, you're not a real man because, and then what do you mean, right? So, I mean, your idea of a man or your idea of your religion may conflict with what you're presented with, right? Or your religion may give you this idea that things should be like that, people should do this, or, if you're Jewish, then you should keep kosher, and then somebody doesn't, and then your model's challenged. And so there's all, it's not to say that everything is constantly changing like every minute, but the point is that we have this model and we live in our mind and we live in this thing that we've constructed, right? And we identify with it, even though we're clearly not the model. We're the ones who built the model, right? And yet you can't really see the one who built the model. You can only see the model. And so, so we cling to it. We cling to our model. We identify with our model rather than identifying with the real us, which is the one who built the model, the one who was aware through it all.
Right. So that's parallel to the whole thought about the self being the awareness, consciousness, not all of the characteristics that we might think of as self.
Yeah. And he says, if whenever our model gets challenged, which is basically whenever some samskara comes up, whenever we get triggered, it basically, reality will destroy your model if you don't defend your model. And Mickey's saying, let reality destroy your model. So whenever we practice relax, release, lean back, we are allowing our model to be destroyed, right? And that's a good thing, because the model is the cage. It's the walls that keep us in. It's not you can think of it as the walls that protect you, that keep you feeling safe and comfortable, but actually these walls are preventing you from going beyond this small sense of self, this narrowly defined sense of self. And he says, but it'll be very scary, right? Which you may have noticed, that dropping the resistance can be scary. And he says the only safe place is the seat of self, the seat of awareness, right? That's the thing you should hold on to. Don't hold on to your model, hold on to your seat of self. Hold on to your sense of being the one who is aware, the one who's experiencing it, the one who knows, the builder of the model, not the model.
Nothing sticks to that. Like if you use the building metaphor, that seat of self never becomes something. Like it's not a structure. Like that's what the false self accrues things.
So from a practice perspective, the implication is to notice when you're clinging, to notice when you're pushing away, to notice when your model is being challenged, and to have the intention to allow your model to be destroyed, right? And to have the intention to be, when you feel out of control, the seat of awareness is where you want to be. That's where you want to go for that, for not just safety, but for so you don't get pulled into the model, right? Pulled into the samskara, pulled into the disturbance. The safe place to be, the place where you're going to be able to allow the model to be destroyed, is the seat of awareness, the seat of self, right? Noticing that you're the witness, you're the one who's watching. You're not the disturbance, you're not the emotion. And the thing that's being destroyed is not you. Because there's often this sense of I am being destroyed. I am losing a piece of myself, and feeling this sense of loss and of clinging to that thing that you identify with, right?
Because it's a version that's been very important to you. It's a version that you've held on to, likely.
Yeah, it could be like a personality trait. You may say to yourself, I used to be quite attached to seeing myself as irreverent, seeing myself as sarcastic. When I grew up as a kid, as a teenager, sarcasm was the language, that was my group of friends. We were all big fans of sarcasm. And then at some point in my practice, I think when I was at Plum Village, people were talking about how sarcasm is this, it's quite caustic to ourselves, to our relationships. And that was a real challenge for me, because I really identified with this idea that I like sarcasm. And there's nothing wrong with being sarcastic. And that was hard to let go of because of that identification. Right. And in the same way, you may be identified as I'm married, and then losing your marriage may be a real threat to your identity. Right.
Mm-hmm, yeah. I mean, it's funny. That's an interesting example. It's funny because I don't think of that as necessarily being true, but I think I'm wrong. It is true. I mean, I noticed myself in an interaction the other day, it's always very easy and comfortable. It's exactly this, to be able to use the phrase "my wife."
Mm-hmm.
Saves you a lot of trouble, it just, and then I noticed, and I did that, and then I realized wait, that's not
Mm-hmm.
even, that's not true, or not right, or not anymore. So
Yeah. So the admonition is, whenever you notice that your stuff is getting hit, identify with the awareness. I am the awareness. I am the sense of knowing. I'm not this model. Right? I'm not my psyche. I'm not this collection of patterns of mind. So it's interesting these days with all this talk of intersectionality, right? And all these, this sort of identity, this is very much, this is very different than, identify, these are all my identities, recognize all my identities, and valuing all these aspects of your model.
Yeah, and it may be that people younger generations will grow up holding on to those less.
Maybe
those definitions of male and female, for example.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, this, I in no way, shape, or form am I taking away from the lived experiences of people and the oppression that people face because of their skin color, religion, where they're from, sexual orientation, et cetera, gender. you know, in terms of the practice, it's really like always noticing when you're identifying with your model as opposed to your, you know, your awareness. Any questions about this?
Yeah. Am I,
Yeah, we can hear you.
like I do painting as a hobby, and you know, when people have seen my art and something, they now call me an artist. Well, that feels good. So why shouldn't I let that be there? Like, why shouldn't I
There's nothing wrong with you know, liking being called an artist. It's just not clinging to that, right? Not worrying about losing your status as an artist, or, you know, it's that it's what serves you, right? So like if it's, you know, oh, somebody says, I really like your art, and isn't it wonderful to be an artist, and sure, great. But then, you know, so then you kind of the idea is not to plant a flag in that and hold on to it, right? Like, yeah, of course, like you want to, you know, like do your art, that's great. And, you know, talk about it, that's great. But just notice when if that causes you discomfort. And I'm not saying that it's going to cause you discomfort when somebody calls you an artist, but maybe it would cause you a discomfort if somebody says, you're not a real artist, Jeff, right? If you're offended by that, then that's your model being challenged, right? Or if you know, if someday you lose your inspiration, right? And then you're like, oh my God, I so identify with being an artist, and now I don't feel like an artist anymore. So again, that's challenging your model, right? So I'm just saying, we plant our flags in things and we cling to them, but we cling to them at our peril because they often get challenged, you know? If you've got, you know, we've all got like, I mean, hundreds or maybe thousands of aspects of our model, maybe more. And so it gets challenged a lot because there's so many aspects to it. Some are more foundational than others. You know, those are the big samskaras, if you will. But it's all about it. This is just a tool to notice how the resistance comes about, why it comes about, and to help you be able to drop the resistance by seeing what's going on.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And by being open to having your model destroyed, because the call here is to allow your model to be destroyed. Right. So yes, you like being called an artist, but are you okay if you're not an artist? If you're not identified as an artist,
Mm-hmm.
can you still be happy?
Yeah. I don't need it. That's I don't need that very much.
Right. Okay. So it's just generally having this, you know, this willingness to just sort of allow life to unfold and not be like, it has to unfold this way or that, right?
Yeah.
So he says, whenever you're disturbed, ask who notices, right? And also to stop seeing reactivity as a bad thing, because reactivity is your walls or your model being destroyed, right? So when your model is being destroyed, you can either allow it or defend it.
Hey,
So,
Marie.
yeah, Marina?
Hi, that's quite an insight because it's so the opposite of some teachings. It seems to me some teachings have been to help you to be less reactive. But this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is also about being less reactive, but it's being, you're less reactive because when you let your model be destroyed, when there's no model left, there's nothing to react. As your model, as you have fewer and fewer components to your model, there's fewer and fewer triggers to get to react, right? But the actual, the reaction in the moment, it's like you have that model. The only way for it to be destroyed is through reaction. The only way for it to be destroyed is for it to be challenged.
But Lori, wouldn't that be the awareness of the reaction so that you're able to be aware enough to see you're reacting that you can let it go?
Yeah, but but you have to have the reaction. You still need the reaction.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. 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 If it wasn't there, then
Yeah.
there wouldn't
I
be.
mean, you could just keep things perfectly bottled inside, right? That's the alternative to having a reaction, is that you just keep things perfectly bottled inside and none of your samskaras ever get released.
Unless you don't have a filter. Never mind.
Okay, I don't understand that, but
I just meant that some people are really good at holding back their reactions and keeping everything inside, and then other people, full disclosure, seem to want to just everything out without thinking beforehand. So that's also very detrimental. But anyway, there's just an aside.
yeah. But people who just let everything out like that, they're not necessarily, they're probably not allowing, they're probably not just opening to the experience. They're caught in the reactivity, but the way they deal with it is by expressing it. Maybe they start getting angry and saying, "Yeah, how dare you, da 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 da," right? That, that,
Mhm.
when I think of people who are very, you know, emotional and emotionally demonstrative and kind of, you know, just kind of run with their emotions. That's not necessarily allowing. It's probably it's more an acting out thing. Letting their emotions take control of them and just kind of,
But maybe I didn't say it properly, but I just meant that like, I guess I'm confused. The reactivity happens, and if it happens, it's a good thing because it's challenging us to let go of our model. But wouldn't it be the way you deal with the reactivity following that?
well, absolutely. But it's not. It's reactivity isn't challenging us to let go of our model. It's destroying. Like it's challenging the model directly, and then you can either allow that aspect of your model to be destroyed, or you can defend it, right? And
See,
and
and
when you say I don't want to have this reaction, you're defending it.
but isn't it what happens just before the reactivity that is the because say somebody says something to you and it gets you really upset and then you react, it's their potentially it could be their words that started the process.
No.
No?
So when you say
Mhm.
they say something and you get upset and you react, no, getting upset is the reaction. And then you can either defend against
Right.
it, and then you can either defend against
Right.
getting upset and try and explain in your mind why it's not your fault, it's this other person's fault, they should never have done this, and try not to feel it, brace in the body so you don't have to feel that. Or you can get upset and just open to it and just let it pass through you, right? So you've still had that
Right, it's
reaction.
not-
You've had that reaction and you let it pass through you. Right? Because if you're, it's like somebody says something to you that really bothers you, right? So you have this initial reaction, which is this feel, that whatever the feeling is, that maybe it's anger or shame or whatever it is, and then you can open to it, allow it, let it move through you, and then you've just allowed your model to be destroyed to a certain extent. Or you can defend against the reaction. And when you defend against the reaction, that's where, you don't want to let it in. You don't want to, like, you heard what they said, the emotion came up, but you don't want to feel the emotion. So you start defending. Your mind starts going, right? And your body is like tightens up because you don't want to feel it. And you could turn it around your head for, hours, days, weeks, months, so there's the initial reaction. Maybe the way to think of it is an initial reaction and a continuing reaction. So yeah, you don't want the continuing reaction. You want to allow the initial reaction, allow yourself to feel the initial reaction. Don't defend against the initial reaction. And then generally it goes through you, reasonably quickly. I mean, if it's touching the deep samskara, it may not go through you that fast, but the point is that initial triggering, it is the emotion that you feel. It is the upset, right? So I think we're getting caught in words here, but I just wanted to make sure
Yeah,
we're
I
on the
think
same
so. 'Cause
wavelength.
No,
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying, because I think when I heard the word reaction, I was taking it as a negative. The reaction is always a negative, but that's not how you meant it. It could be any type of reaction. So anyway, sorry, I think I wasted some people's time there.
No, I think it's an important point.
Okay.
But the point is your model gets, something collides with your model. The wall gets, cracked or maybe completely destroyed or whatever it is. And then we try and rebuild it or seal the crack or stop it from getting stop it from falling apart. That's what you're thinking of, I think, in terms of reaction.
Yeah.
But that, to me, that's the word that's defending. That's the defending the wall, right? That's the not wanting to feel the effect of that collision between your model and reality. So I'm thinking of reaction as the collision, not what you do subsequent to the collision. And the admonition is subsequent to the collision. Just say yay, yay, wall destroyed, yay. We just feel it. Oh yeah, So but also that subsequent reaction, like when you have that subsequent reaction, that resistance, that's the resistance, right? If you're not able to drop the resistance, if you're noticing, oh, I'm still resisting, then again, allow yourself to feel that, allow that to have happened, because you may, after you resisted for a while, you may notice, oh shoot, I was resisting. And then you resist experiencing you judge yourself for resisting, and then you don't want to feel that judgment, so you resist the resistance, right? Because it's a very complex thing. It has endless kind of derivatives in terms of like what happens after the collision, right? So that's why resistance, like Mark was saying, like resistance is tricky, because our mind is always looking for ways to defend what it views as itself, which is our model. So, you know,
It's tricky, and that's why the chapter is the longest chapter in the whole book.
yeah. And at the end of the day, it's really, you know, it still just comes down to relax, release, lean back. It still comes down to just like, I just want to enjoy life. So I'm not going to let, anytime I notice anything that stopped where, you know, I want to keep my heart open. I want to keep my heart open. So anytime I notice my heart closing, anytime I notice this defending, because heart closing, defending, same thing, right? So anytime I notice this defending, I'm going to do my best to drop the resistance. To drop the resistance and allow myself to feel whatever's going on and to get to that safe place of the seat of awareness, where I can just watch it happen without getting pulled into the, you know, getting, without, you know, getting pulled into the experience and losing the awareness that I'm watching this, right? Get pulled into the movie, you know, as he talks about. Okay, so yeah, I'm not sure if Mark's around, but why don't we go on to the next?
I'm just stretching.
Okay.
I just thought I wouldn't distract people with my stretching.
No problem. And Kathy, you still there? No, maybe she's there, maybe she's not. So we'll talk about chapter 15, and then we'll do a breakout, and then we'll do chapter 16. So chapter 15, the path of unconditioned happiness. So this is this idea that it's our samskaras that tell us when to be happy and when not, right? And we think that it's what's going on outside, but it's actually what's going on outside hitting our model, hitting our samskaras, right? And when it hits the samskara, essentially the mind then decides, I'm going to be unhappy, right? Oh, they said this, they shouldn't have said that. I'm going to be unhappy because they said that. I'm going to be, you know, it's my birthday. I have this outdoor party planned and it's raining, so I'm going to be unhappy. It's, you know, I had this presentation at work and I wanted everyone to like it and I got some negative responses, so I can't be happy, right? Whatever it is. And so you know, Mickey says, happiness is a choice. If you're aware, if you're in that seat of awareness, you can see, like, happiness goes on in our mind. It doesn't go on outside, right? It goes on in our mind. So it's our mind that determines whether we're happy or unhappy. And so if we have the awareness, we can actually see how we choose to be unhappy. You know, not that it's a conscious choice to be happy, but we can see how the reaction happens. The samskara comes up, and then we say, this should not happen. I cannot be happy with this going on. I cannot keep my heart open. I'm going to close my heart. I'm going to close down. I'm going to defend. Right? As soon as you start defending, bye-bye happiness, bye-bye open heart. And happiness isn't the right word because, you know, it may be that somebody dies and keeping an open heart means, or you lose, you know, a relationship ends or something. And, you know, like, you know, he in one of his talks, he says, you know, imagine that you met like somebody who, like, you felt so good with them and you had this amazing time with them and you know, you had this incredibly romantic, wonderful weekend together. And at the end of the weekend, the person says to you, so I'm getting on a plane tomorrow, moving to Europe. This was really nice. Thank you. And he says, and what's most of our reactions at that point? It's like, oh my God, what do you mean how can you leave me? How can you leave me? Oh my God, I thought I found happiness and now it's all being taken away from me. And he says, uh, you know, if you didn't have these samskaras, you would be like, thank you so much. That was so wonderful. I had the most wonderful time with you this weekend. And I wish you, a wonderful time in Europe. And just thank you, just gratitude for having had that time with that person, right? As opposed to like despair that they're leaving, right? And it all goes on in our mind. It's how you look at it, right? So yeah, a couple of classes ago, somebody came up with they were like, yeah, I noticed that my espresso was cold, and then I was unhappy because my espresso was cold, right? And because the mind said, I don't like cold espresso. So my espresso is cold, so I am going to be unhappy, right? And how many times do we do this? Does our mind trick us into being unhappy by telling us that if this is the way things are, then I am not happy. No, I cannot be happy with this, right? And he's saying, stop doing that. Make this very strong commitment that says, no matter what happens, I'm going to be happy. If I get wrongly accused of murder and thrown in jail for life, I am going to be happy in jail, because I'd rather be happy than unhappy. Obviously that wouldn't be. I mean, there'd be some scars there, right? There'd be some big thoughts going, I cannot be happy with this, right? And he's certainly not saying to get a lawyer and defend yourself and blah, blah, blah. But the point is, why would you ever want to give up your happiness? Why would you ever want to close your heart? You're always better off having an open heart and having a good outlook on any situation. So this is a challenge to look and say, how does your mind trick you into thinking you should be unhappy? And do you really want that to be, do you really want to choose is there ever a situation where you would choose to be unhappy?
It's the thing that I'm thinking of, like the answer to that sort of, I think maybe has to do with, I mean, I don't know if this is intellectual or not, but authenticity. So what if I'm, authentically not happy?
Yeah.
And what about, yeah,
I mean,
like I had a very Pollyanna-ish mother who thought, it was important to be happy all the time, regardless of what was going on. And
right.
I certainly responded against that. Now, obviously, I understand that that's not what he's saying, but there's some
you're defending, it's your model. It's your model. Your model is saying,
I have to be happy all the time.
The model is saying, the model is saying,
my mother's model might have been saying that.
No, your model is saying, my experience is that I can't be happy all the time. Therefore, the only way, this is asking me to be inauthentic.
Right.
Right. But he's not asking anybody to fake happiness. He's asking you to see how your mind convinces you, and this is your, the voice in your head, right? This is your personal mind, convinces you to be unhappy because of the exterior circumstances. Say, oh, well, this is going on outside, so I cannot be happy in this situation, right? Which is your, that's your model. That's what your model says. Your model says, in the past, when this happened, I was not happy. So now, so therefore, when this happens, I cannot be happy. So now it happens. So now your mind says, oh, I can't be happy. I am unhappy. Right. And so it's saying, notice that your mind is pointing to what's going on outside to say, I can't be happy, but it's actually your mind that's making that decision. Right. And as you pointed out, Mark, in their discussion at the beginning, like this is not an easy thing, right? Mickey doesn't actually make it, like, he kind of makes it sound easy, but then he's very clear in saying the only way to do this is to stay aware and stay committed to, like, I'm not giving up my happiness no matter what, to stay aware and committed every moment. And that's impossible, but that's the direction, the point is to cultivate, to really see, think about, observe, and see that you're always better off being happy than unhappy in any situation. You're always better off, or at least having your heart open, like not closing, not defending in any situation. And so the trick is just to, to have that awareness and have that intention as much as you can. Right. And I mean, like, I remember a number of months ago, I ordered this, I was looking forward to having this particular Indian food, and I ordered it, and I went to the restaurant and I picked it up, or I went to the restaurant to pick it up, and they said, we didn't get an order from you. I was like, what? And then I realized I had ordered from the wrong restaurant. Right. And so I left the restaurant and headed to the other restaurant, and I was like, oh God, I don't like this dish at the other restaurant is no good. I wanted this one. And then I thought to myself, is this worth closing over? And I thought, no, I don't want to be unhappy. Like, I am unhappy. I am unhappy in this moment. But do I want to be unhappy? No, I don't. No. And then it was like, right. So I didn't instantly become happy, but I stopped feeding the unhappiness, and I just practice, relax, release, lean back, and just opening to it, and just said, okay, well, this is a really good learning experience, and I don't want to close. I want to be happy. I want to enjoy my dinner. And I felt so stupid, but it's like, just let me feel being stupid. Let me feel what this feels like. Let me feel this regret. Let me feel this craving for this other place that I'm not going to be eating tonight. And let me just see if I can enjoy this other place, the food from this other place, because that's what I'm having. That's what so it didn't turn it, like, it was a really neat learning experience. I wasn't ecstatic eating the other food, but at least I stopped telling myself how terrible this situation was. And instead, I was doing my best to enjoy. Again, not faking it, but just like, yeah, this food's not bad. Not as good as the other place, but it's not bad. And I don't have to make myself unhappy.
Some ways I think there are like certain cultural commitments to unhappiness too. Like, seems to me that there's a Jewish, element to this, to being I don't know, to being unhappy in some way, that I don't know what it has to do with exactly, but I feel like there are certain kinds of cultural commitments to unhappiness, like to suffering, that make it particularly hard maybe to get over.
Right. So,
or to work with.
Right, but the issue is like what's going on with you, right? So your model says, oh, I'm Jewish, so does your model say I'm Jewish, so therefore I'm predisposed to be unhappy and I can't, this is
I think
harder.
it's more unconscious. I mean, I think it's like, it's imbibed culturally from a very early age. So
Yeah,
that model is not just, those models are not just intentional.
right.
They're like things that we do that we're completely unaware of. So that's the
Right.
thing about saying you've got to be aware of this all the time.
Well, it's not to be aware of your entire psyche. It's to be aware of what is going on in this moment. What emotion is there? What thought is there? What sensation is there? And to just notice when there's a disturbance. Notice when you're uncomfortable. Notice when you're resisting, and drop the resistance. And watch for a sea of awareness. Notice that you're the one who's aware, right? That's all it is. You don't have to figure it all out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just watching your experience and allowing yourself to feel whatever emotional energy is there and allowing it to flow without trying
Yeah.
to stop it.
I think it may be hard sometimes to say what, like, if you were to ask yourself that question, as you did maybe with the food example, like, is this worth being unhappy about? Seems like sometimes the answer is going to be yes, and that's
Yeah.
that's maybe cultural, or that's like, I don't know what.
Well, my point is commit to the end. See how, I'm going to use a harsh word. See how stupid that is.
Right.
To want to be unhappy, right?
Yeah.
Your mind may be telling you that.
Yeah.
This is why Mickey says the voice in your head is garbage, because it tells you stuff like that. It tells you to be unhappy. It tells you to be unhappy a lot. That's garbage. Stop paying attention to it. Stop believing it, because it's garbage. And this is anytime your mind says, hey, you should be unhappy now. What? Do I really want to listen to that? Do I really want to believe that? Is that really in my best interest? Is it in the best interest of the people around me? No. No. So sure, the voice in your head is going to say that. Of course, the voice in your head is going to say that. So we practice.
The voice. Oh,
the
sorry.
voice in your head. The voice in your head.
No, I was going to say the voice is ungrateful.
Well,
sometimes.
The voice is your patterns. The voice is your samskaras, right?
Yeah, no, I'm just tongue in cheek.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
voice is the
find
past.
that happens to me when there's usually three things that come up at once, that I just can't say that anymore, because these three things are overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're definitely not going to be able to do this all the time. Like, that's an unrealistic expectation, right? I'm not trying to set up the expectation that you should be able to read this chapter and now, keep your heart open all the time. No, I mean, this is we start with the small stuff. We work with the small stuff. We we teach ourselves, or we teach our mind that this is, that this works, that we don't have to be unhappy in these situations, that we start to see how our mind is tricking us, how it's garbage, the patterns, the voice in our head, and then we we learn to identify resistance. We learn to get in the seat of awareness, and as we learn these things with the small stuff, it gets easier and easier to do it with bigger and bigger stuff. As we as we see the fruits of our practice, we have more faith in this practice, right? So let's have a breakout. So the theme here is think of the last time that, you know, your small stuff got hit, that small stuff came up. And can you see how your mind told you to be unhappy? You know, in other words, can you think of a situation where, you know, something didn't happen the way you wanted and your mind told you to be unhappy? So like the, you know, the cold espresso, or, you know, I don't know what it could be. It could be anything. The lineup, right? The weather, the noise, you know, someone doing something you didn't like, anything. And you know, how did your mind try to trick you into being unhappy? Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay, so I'll divide us up into groups. So we'll have about 5 minutes. So just click away.
Hi.
Well, sir, yeah.
What are we talking about? What, something went wrong? We were supposed to feel bad. Or what was that?
Jeff, do you want to fill Kathy in, or do you want me to?
Well, yeah, but just about the small stuff, whether we're making any progress. Like,
It's just like when, you know, think about the last time some small stuff came up and how your mind told you you can't be happy because this is going on. You can't be happy because there's a lineup, because it's raining, because this person said something, because my coffee was cold, my food wasn't how I wanted it to be, whatever, anything like that. So just note, like, just sharing an example where you're, you know, something happened that disturbed you, and your mind said, I can't be happy with this. I am unhappy with this.
Situation.
Sorry?
My family situation was growing up. We had
Yeah.
an abusive person in our family, and we couldn't be happy because of that. I don't think we could be. Yeah.
That's what your mind told you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was your mind right?
Well, I wasn't happy because of the abuse.
Yeah, I mean, that's not small stuff, but at all. Can you think of anything recently where just something small happened that didn't go how you wanted it to go?
Well, book club yesterday session was canceled.
Right. So what did your mind say in response to that?
I was a little upset about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did your mind tell you to be upset, do you think? Did your mind?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just felt upset.
Yeah. What do you think, Jeff? Can you remember anything
well,
like that?
just today I baked. I don't bake very often. It's usually a challenge, but anyway, I baked some biscuits, and the same thing happened as the last time I baked them, but I'd forgotten that. Like, there was way too much soda, baking soda in that, so that's all you could taste. And so at first I went, oh my gosh, don't you learn? I mean, you did this the last time. So obviously, you know, for a moment there, I was not happy. And But then I thought, well, I wonder how I can modify this. Then I put some lemon on it because it did say that there was an alternative to baking soda was putting lemon. So that I put lemon on it and it tasted it, and well, a little bit better. And then I thought of other ways to modify it. Maybe I can just use what I baked to dilute it somehow with other things. So I got past the aggravation of it in that respect.
So would you say that your mind contributed to your unhappiness initially?
For a short bit, but yeah, I'm glad I'm at the point where it doesn't take over.
Yeah.
But another thing I'm thinking of, commercials have always bothered me. So now I avoid them. I fast forward through them. I pre-tape things and I just avoid them that way. But to get that out of my system, maybe I do need to listen to some commercials, right? That's what we're being taught here. Just listen to them and see, relax, and then, don't let it bother you.
Yeah, and it's not even a question of don't let it bother you. It's more a question of just feel yourself being bothered.
Right. Yeah, that's what I
Right.
mean.
Yeah, just allow yourself to feel whatever happens. Right?
To the point where it won't bother you.
Yeah. But in the moment, you're just allowing yourself to feel. You're not trying to steer. You're not trying to make anything happen, right? You're just trying to experience it.
Right.
To drop the resistance, right?
And I was able to do that with the lineups because I don't like lineups at all. So I'm thinking back, wow, it was amazing that I stayed there.
Yeah.
Lineup.
So maybe you do like lineups now.
I don't know.
Well, the point is that you managed to enjoy the lineup. Welcome back, everyone.
Okay.
Jeff, you're muted.
So now that's my model that I don't like lineups. So now I can change that model. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you're not saying I want there to be a lineup, but you're saying if there's a lineup, I'll enjoy the lineup. Right? Instead of having I don't like lineups being your model, and then when there's a lineup, then your mind says, the voice in your head says, I don't like lineups, which is basically saying I'm going to be unhappy.
Right.
Right. But you learned that that model isn't actually right. You can enjoy lineups. So why not? If there's a lineup, why not enjoy it?
Best of it.
Yeah. Because happiness is an internal state. So we have a lot of, we have a lot of power to affect our internal state. We don't have control, but we have a lot of power.
I was just going to say, Lori, about that. I really love in the book where, in the chapters we were reading for this week, he says you're not helpless in there, and I really like that because sometimes when you feel really helpless, to hear that it's like, yes, you're right. I'm not helpless. I do have the will. I can help myself, and it just feels really comforting. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It gets you set back in the right place,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And, Mickey's definitely big on, taking responsibility for yourself, right? Not saying, oh, this stuff's going on outside, so I can't be happy. I have to be this way or that way, but rather saying, no, I only have so much capacity to be aware, but when I'm aware, I have a lot of power here on what goes on inside. And not that I can make thoughts stop or make emotions stop, but I have the power to allow what's going on to go on and stop defending, right? And I have the power to make, even though I can't stop thoughts from happening and I can't stop emotions from happening, I can make thoughts happen. I can make the thought, is this worth closing, happen. I can make the thought, do I want to give up my happiness in this situation? I can make that happen. I can make the thought, who notices? I can make that happen, right? I can't always make it happen because I have to remember to do that. But I can cultivate that intention. I can do that practice, and then more and more I will have that ability. Okay, so just 10 minutes left. We should probably go on to the last chapter. So chapter 16, the spiritual path of non-resistance. So we talked about this at the beginning a little bit. Basically what he says is we have this thing called will, right? And he defines will a little bit different than intention. Intention is like a mental thing. Will is like actually a force, right? So I can have the intention to move my arm. My arm isn't moving yet, but I have the intention that very soon I'm going to move my arm. And then exerting the will is like making it move, right? And I can exert will in terms of bracing against sensation in my body. I can exert will in terms of making thoughts happen. I can exert will in terms of trying not to feel something, trying to defend. I can defend mentally, right, with thoughts. And will can come from our lower self, from our samskaras, our desire, our fear, and will can also come from our higher self. And will could even come from the big self, but of course we can't make that happen. So, and he says here that we don't actually resist. If somebody says something, for example, that we don't like, we heard it, but then we resist feeling it. We resist accepting it. Right? But we're always resisting something that happened in the past or something that might happen in the future. We're not actually going to change the past or the future by not accepting it. I suppose we could change the future by changing what we do, but where was it? Did I say this last week about Mark Twain's thing about I've experienced many difficult situations, right? Some of which even happened.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah. So the point is that we're resisting, we're resisting the experience, and that causes, it takes a lot of effort, and it causes, it's two forces doing this, and so it's exhausting, and it causes stress, it causes tension. I mean, that's where tension comes from, is resisting experience, resisting life, resisting the present moment. So, Mickey says, like, the reaction happens, the emotion comes up, but then instead of letting it pass through us, we hold on to it. And so the resistant, like, we have a choice whether we hold on to it or not. If we have the awareness and we understand how this works, then we have the choice whether to hold on to it or not. So he says, basically, don't listen to the voice in your head that says to resist, right? That says, I can't be happy, they shouldn't have done this, I don't want to feel this, I shouldn't be feeling this, I don't want to have this reaction, all that sort of stuff. It says just see it as it truly, the situation as it exists, and don't see it as a problem. The problem is the resistance. right? The fact that somebody said this, or the fact that your coffee's cold, or the fact that, you know, somebody's making noise. I mean, it's just a situation. Just allow yourself to experience it, right? And he says, don't see it as a personal problem. Just see it as something going on this planet. Oh, there's something going on this planet, right? It's not a personal problem. It's not a reflection on me. It's just what's happening. And I don't have to see it as a problem. I can see it instead as a challenge. It's a challenge to let myself feel it. It's a challenge to, you know, to figure it out. Like, cause we, you know, we talk about, you know, allowing things to happen and not getting drawn into figuring it out. But obviously we do have to figure things out in life, and and that can be it can be stressful, or it can be, you know, invigorating, right? If you see it as if you're not so attached to the outcome, then you can just see it as a game, a challenge, right? He says, like, if you're playing sports, you don't want to, you know, you want a team that's going to challenge you. You don't want to just play against people who are terrible, you know, who you're way better than, and there's no fun in that, right? It's the same with life. Like, if everything came easily, constantly, would that really be fun? I mean, it might be, but it's not going to happen.
Could be.
So, and it's like, it's a lot easier to deal with the world around you when you're not when you're not defending constantly, because the defending is exhausting and it creates all these samskaras. So you know, so don't resist, basically. And as we talked about before, it's important to you know, to work with resistance, to understand what is resistance, how all the different ways it manifests. And you know, and the obvious, I mean, and when you notice resistance, the way to work with it is just to relax, to allow yourself to stop defending and just, you know, stop exerting that will and let yourself feel it. Stop trying to manipulate the situation and just let it in. He says, relax your body, relax your will. It's not about getting into the emotion. It's just relaxing and allowing the heart to express itself, right? So it's always a non-doing. It's always a dropping of resistance. It's not trying to make anything happen. It's really it's dropping the effort, right? The only effort is to stay aware. So he says, every moment life is giving you a gift. So accept the gift. Even if the gift is a lineup or noise or whatever it might be. It's an opportunity to, you know, to get closer to life, right? It's an opportunity to experience life. It's an opportunity to learn and grow, and even if it's not pleasant. And ultimately to get to, you know, unending ecstasy, right? It's getting to a place where you feel better. Life is more enjoyable. You're a nicer person. It's all sorts of wonderful things. You're getting in touch with your, you know, your true nature, right? The joy, the love, the peace. Yeah, Dawn?
You have a minute time for me to say something?
Yeah, about a minute. Yeah.
Okay, I'll make it quick. I just think we should all be really proud of ourselves, because this is like, to do this is pretty courageous, you know, what we're doing. I think it's really, so we should give ourselves a pat on the back for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah. Thanks for that, Dawn.
for that.
Mm. Hmm.
It is. It's not easy stuff. You know, this is really going where few people dare to go. Yeah. So, just in terms of home practice, so there's a handout, of course, that explains it, but you know, the meditation is on not knowing, continuing to work with the small stuff or the micro stuff, and setting a strong intention to notice when your heart closes, and you know, to not give up your happiness so easily. And then there's also an exercise, just you know, about writing down a problem that you recently faced, and how could you see it as no problem? How could you see it as instead as something that can help you to um, grow, basically. So that's it. Any, if anyone has any questions or wants to talk, please do stay on. I'm happy to talk, but it's just about 9 o'clock. So thanks for your presence tonight, your participation.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And it's the
Bye,
last
everyone.
week. Yeah, it's the last week, so
One more week.
enjoy it.
Do it.
Enjoy it. Get the most you can out of it. Bye.
Bye.
Actually, Lori, that bodes a question.
Mhm.
So when the course is finished, Brian was mentioning to me that there's every night there's a Sunday, oh, not every Sunday, once a month, I think it is.
Yeah.
There's
So
it's not a satsang, is it? Or a,
it's just like a discussion. It's you know, there'll be a short meditation, and then people can just share whatever they want to share or ask whatever questions they want to ask.
Good.
So it's like a thanga. So, and it's going to happen because of Easter. Usually it's the first Sunday, but we're going to do it the second Sunday because the first Sunday is Easter in April.
okay.
And I'll certainly let everybody know about it.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And
and it's free.
yeah.
There's no cost to it. So,
And so until the next course comes up, and if we want to stay really intentional with some kind of what's the word, not accountability, but just some kind of connection to,
mhm.
is there anything that you recommend or a way to keep that flow going? I mean, obviously it's up to us, but it's always obviously great to.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's really helpful is like having a practice partner, you know, and getting together regularly with them.
Cool.
So I did that. I paired people up after the first group, but most people weren't interested, and it seems to fizzle out. But I could certainly raise that at the next Sunday session and see, you know, or just put it out there, I guess, by email and see if anybody wants to be partnered up. Or you can just find a partner, like if you know other people who've taken the course or who've read the book and you want to partner with them.
Brian.
Yeah, so you could just partner with Brian
Yeah.
if you want, if he's interested. And
Yeah.
I find that's very helpful. And you know, you can get together once every however often you want and just talk about your practice. And then that helps to keep the motivation going, keep the accountability going. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, no, thank you. I was curious about that. So yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for tonight. Great class tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.